Daf Gimel Amud Aleph will begin base Amud Beis right at the bottom. We were learning previously that according to the Chum, apparently, we say that the height of the Mavoi, the Kura, cannot be higher than 20 because we learn out from the height of the Heichal, from the dimensions of the Pesach of the Heichal. And to be considered a Pesach, we see that the Pesach of the Heichal, Pesach Ha'almai, is considered a Pesach, and therefore a Pesach cannot have a height of higher than 20. If that's the case, Lo tahanale amaltara. Well then, even if you have molding, even if you have on the top of the beam of the kaira, or on the top of the opening of the Pesach, on the lintel, if you have molding strips of wood or different types of designs, it shouldn't make a difference because the Heichal had an amaltara, and nevertheless it was limited to a height of 20 and not more. And similarly, therefore, we should say that even if there is an amaltara on the kaira, and if it has these designs, then still it should be limited to a height of 20. The Heichal had an amaltara, and nevertheless it was limited to a height of 20. It says we learned in the Mishnah, it had 5 strips of oak wood that were on top of it. Each one higher than the other one. They had the moldings that were each one higher than the one on top of it. So you see that nevertheless it was limited to a height of 20, even though it had an amaltara. What's a kasha? Maybe that was only on the case of the ulam. The ulam had the amaltara, but maybe not the heichal. Where it says, why my kusha? Well, what kind of kasha? Dilma tavnis heichal ketavnis ulam. Now the Rizvah says Dilma. Normally Dilma means perhaps, maybe, but over here that's not what it means. Over here it means that over here the Tavnis of the Heichal and Tavnis were the Ulam were the same. We had a Kabbalah that they were the same type of Tzura. They had the same architecture. So therefore, we see that the Heichal also had a Maltara, and Alama Amar Rabbeinu Amarav Rach B'Dalet Alf B'Shein or Bria. So this is an independent, a separate halach. It says if the kaira, it says not related to the discussion, if a kaira is 4 tefachim wide, even though it's not strong enough to support a half a brick. Normally a kaira has to be strong enough to support a half a brick. But if it has that width, it doesn't have to be. Now, a second halacha, and this is relevant to our discussion, if it has these moldings, then even if it's higher than 20, you don't have to lower it. Because even though it's higher than 20, but since it has a significant design over here, we say the people will be aware of it, even if it's higher than 20. Now, if we're learning out from the Pesach of the Heichal had an amaltara, and yet it was limited to 20, so that doesn't that show you that we don't learn out from the Heichal? Amar of Yosef, amaltara masnisin. Now, it's not the way you said it. You said that this halach is Amar Vilo Amar Rab, in the name of Rab. Really, it's not Rav. It's not Rav didn't say it. This is a brisa. It's a brisa, but Rav never said that. And according to Rav, he says that you do learn out from the Pesach of the Heichal, and therefore, even if there's an amaltara, it's not going to help. You're still limited to a height of 20. But nevertheless, let's say it is a brisa, but nevertheless, the brisa should be akash on Rav. But if we have a brisa that says that if there's an amaltara, you do not have to be mamayeded, doesn't that show us that we do not learn out from the Heichal? Where it says, Man Katanala, who says that this brisa is authoritative? Who's the one that taught it? Maybe we don't rely on that brisa. Yes, the brisa said it was an amaltara, you can be higher than 20, but who says we rely on that? Amar Abaya, the Rabba Baravu Katanala, he did teach it, and therefore it's reliable. And nevertheless, even if it is a brisa, and even if Rav didn't say it, but it should be a kasha on Rav. Don't you see over here that if there's an amaltara, that the brisa says it can be higher than 20. The Heichal had an amaltara and still was limited to 20. Rav would tell you, don't insert me into this discussion. Remove me from the discussion. In spite of what I put aside what I say. Masnaisa miloi kasha dadi, aren't the Brises a kasha on each other? The one Bryce says we learn out from the Heichal, and the other one says that in a Maltara it can be higher than 20. What must you say? You must just say that it's a machlokes tanoim. You must say that it's a machlokes tanoim. It seems to be that the Bryce contradicts it. So it's tanoim. So therefore, l'didi nami tanoim. Now, according to me, it's a machlokes tanoim, and I'm going according to the Tana that says that you learn out from the Heichal. But Rav Nachman by Yitzchak Amar Baloi Rav. No, without what Rav said over here, it would not be a kasha. Masnaisa adani loy kasha. They would not be a kasha on each other. L'Rabbanan kaira taimamai. What is the reason for a kaira? We say that a kaira is placed on the entrance to the movi. Why is it machshir mishum akira? Because it'll be a heker. It'll be a reminder. People will see it and they'll be aware. So there's machlek different pshatim in the Rishonim. Rashi says, be aware that there's a difference between the area outside and the area inside. The area outside is a Rishus HaRabim. The area inside is not a Rishus HaRabim. And just because you can carry in the area inside, you can't carry in the area outside. So it would be a heker to tell you that these are two distinct areas. Outside is a Rishus HaRabim. Now, Rashi Lishit also holds that the area inside is a Rishus HaYachid D'Oraisa, and most Rishonim hold that way. But the Rambam holds that it's, unless there's four walls, it's not a Rishus HaYachid D'Oraisa. The Lechi will make it into a Rishus HaYachid. Al Kol Panim. We'll get into that discussion more later. Al Kol Panim, it's a heker to tell you that these two areas are distinctly different. And therefore, just because you can carry in the Mavoi, you cannot carry in the Rishus HaRabim. Other Rishonim learn that, Reina Yonasan learns is that it's a heker that you should know that this is the border. You can carry here in the Mavoi, but outside is the Rishus HaRabim, and don't carry beyond. Don't carry beyond. So, Al Kol Panim, what do we see? It's a heker. So without Rav, I would say the Brises aren't a kasha. What's the reason for the kaira? It's a heker. So therefore, if you have a heker, then it's kasha. Normally the heker would be up until the height of 20. If you have an amaltara, it's significant that people are aware of it, and therefore they can see it and recognize it and are aware of it even at a height of more than 20. And really, in fact, we don't learn out from the Pesach of the Heichal. It's only Rav who says we learn out from the Pesach of the Heichal, but really we don't. It's only Mishum a Heker. It's a Takana Rabbanan that there should be a Heker, a reminder. And that it says that it can't be higher than 20. It can't be higher than the Pesach of the Heichal is not to say that we learn out from the Heichal like Rav suggests. It's Siman Ba'alma. It's only a Siman. It's a way of remembering it. How do you know how it's a tool to remember? What is the maximum height? It's 20 amas. Just like the maximum height of the Heichal was 20 amas. So that's a reminder. It serves as a tool to remember. But it's not the reason. It's not the makor. We're not learning out from that. It's Rav who said we learn out from that. So with Rav, I wouldn't have a kasha on the Brises. Rav Nachman by Yitzchak. He says, well, if you're telling me that it's a heker, then I understand, that's fine if you don't hold like Rabbah. Rabbah said, Hezber in Sukkah, in the Machloikis by Sukkah, Rabbah said that it's totally on a heker. The Rava, but if we do know like Rava, Dama Rava, Ksiv, it says by Sukkos Laman Yedu Dorisecham Kiva Sukkos Shafti, that your generations should know that they'll see they'll be in the Sukkah and they'll see the Schach and they'll be reminded that the great Nes, Rabbi Shalom took them out of Mitzrayim. So therefore, according to that, Adam Yodei Shadar Sukkah, a person, he lives in a Sukkah, he knows in his Sukkah. And he knows the nates. Lamala mes shemama. But if the height of the schach is more than 20 amas, if he's sitting in the sukkah, he is not aware, he's not mindful of that he's in the sukkah. The schach is so high that he doesn't have an awareness, that he's sitting under the schach, he's sitting in the sukkah, and to be aware of the nes. So more than 20, therefore it's possible, mishum delishalta be'ena. So Rava explains that the reasoning by sukkah that the Chachamim say that higher than 20 amas is possible is because he's not aware. Meaning, so they learn that the psul in sukkah is also heker. More than 20 amas, the person's not aware. Well, if that's the case, if you're telling me that by kaira, by the movi, higher than 20, it's possible because there's no heker. So almagabi sukkah, navi by kara pligi. Then by it's the same machlokes by sukkah. The Chachamim Rabbi Yehuda, higher than 20, is there a heker? So if lugi b'tate lamali, why do I need a machlokes in both cases? Why isn't it enough to have the machlokes of Chachamim Rabbi Yehuda in one of the cases? And I know there's a machlokes above 20 amas high, is there a heker or not? And I know it will apply to the other one. The more answers three. No, really, I'll tell you the tam for kair is heker. And the basis of the machlokes by sukkah also, if higher than 20, is shalta be'ena, if there's a heker. Why do I need them in both places to state that they're machlokes shlich? The Ashmin and Gabi Sukkah, if it only told me the Gabi Sukkah, I would say Baha Kamar Rabbi Yehuda. I would say over there Rabbi Yehuda says it's kosher higher than 20 amas high, that there's a heker. Why can't even del yeshiva avir? Because a sukkah is made for sitting in it. A person's sitting in it. So with there he's more aware of where he is. He's sitting, he looks up, he looks around, and he sees, and therefore something even higher than 20, Rabbi Yehuda says, is kosher because there is a heker, there is an awareness, but maybe perhaps that's only in a sukkah where it's yeshiva. So he's there for a longer period of time, and therefore he's more mindful of what's above him. So I would say, came to yeshiva kai shalta be'ena. Therefore, he sees it. He's aware of it. But in the mavoi, he's not stationary. He's not sitting there. He's walking along. He's walking along. He's not that aware. He's not that mindful of something that's so high. So I might think the Rabbi Yehuda is mighty to the Rabbanan. And if it only told me in the case of the mavoi, perhaps I would say Bahal Kamar Rabbanan. I would say over there the Rabbanan say that higher than 20 is possible because it's Leishal Taina. Aval Bahach, but in the Sukkah where it's Yeshiva, Eima Moida Rabbi Yehuda, I would say perhaps that he's Moida to Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore would be Koshet Sricha. It has to tell me that in both cases it's possible. My Amalter. What is the Amalter? So we said if it has the molding, then the Mova even has the molding, that the Raisa says that if it's higher than 20, it's kosher. And the Pesach of the Heichal had this molding. What was it? What's more specifically, how was it made? Rav Chama the Rav Baravu Markini. He said there were cornices that had the appearance of birds' nests. There were designs, they're ornamental, they looked like, the kinim looked like birds' nests. He also, Rav Dime, he says, Amre b'marava, he said there were strips of cedar wood. There were strips of cedar wood that were lined across. So more like the typical moldings that we see. The one who says that they were the cedar strips or poles. So for certainly we would say that the kinim that had designs as nests are noticeable, even more noticeable. They're ornamental, they're designs. But But the one who says that they're kini, but he would say that Piskdarze is not sufficient. That's not enough of a heker. And therefore, if the mo'i is higher than 20 amas, it's still possible. My time, the one that says that the strips of the cedar, what's his reasoning? Why does that give it a heker? It's not a special design, it's just strips of cedar wood. So the more answers mishum the nafish mashche because it's long, it has a length. So since it has a length, it's noticeable. Fragting more of I sukkah the nafish mashche become rabbanan deloy. Well, the sukkah, the schach, it has the strips of the schach that are long. They stretch from one wall to the other wall. And the Chum say, nevertheless, if the sukkah is higher than 20, it's possible. More answers only came into Chashiv is like no, it's not only that it's long, it's also chashiv. it's something that, it's something that's made specially over there. It's a special molding, and it's long. So it has a call. People say, you see that there's this design over here. They're aware that there's a design, and people take note of it. So therefore, since there's a call, there's a design, and it's something that's not so common, it's not so usual, and it's long, therefore he holds that it is a heker, it's noticeable, it's a heker, and it's kosher. One has a shaila, well, the kaira has to be, a maltar aside, the kaira has to be within 20 amas. Can't be higher than 20 amas. What if you have the following scenario? Mixes kaira b'seich esrim and mixes kaira l'mala me'esrim. Let's say part of the kaira, part of the thickness is within 20, but the rest of it extends higher if the thickness of it is above 20. Do we say that the entire thickness of the kaira has to be within 20, or is it kosher as long as the bottom part of it is within 20? And similarly by the schach, we say the schach has to be within 20 amas. Well, let's say the lower level, the lower part of it is, but the higher part of it is not. He says by the mavai it's kosher, but the sukkah will be possible. Why are you saying by mavai it's kosher? Because we say, well, imagine, since the lower part of it is within the requisite height, we say imagine that the higher part is cut away, and you're left with this thin strip that's on the bottom, and then it's kosher. So we should say the same thing by the schach. Look at the top part as if it's not there, non-existent. It's like it's stripped away, and you have the bottom level, that bottom strip of the schach, which is in with the requisite height. Gemara answers no. If you were thin it out, then you won't have kosher schach, because if you view it as it's thin, then it's chamosa meruma etzilcha. Then you have a schach which is not kosher because it doesn't provide enough shade. It's not only that the schach has to be within a certain height, it has to be thick enough to provide enough shade. And if you're going to thin it out, imagine that it's thinned out. So imagine that you have a thin strip of schach within that height, but it's chamosa meruma etzilcha, and it doesn't provide enough shade. So, frankly, more well say the same thing by the kaira. Well, a kaira also has to have a certain thickness. It has to be have enough weight that the wind is not going to blow it away. Now, if you're going to view it as it's just a thin strip at the bottom, then view it that way. And if it would be a thin strip at the bottom, the wind would blow it away. So it should be possible. Rather, you must say you view it as it's a thin strip, but it's iron, it's a metal, and it's heavy, and it's strong. So that's what you must say by the kaira. By the schach, that you'll look at it, that it's only a thin level, but it's very dense, and it provides the requisite shade. So what's the chilik between the two? Amar Rav Parzakaya, he answers, Sukkah d'liyachid loy mitker. The reason is, really, essentially, in both cases, it should be kosher. But we're concerned that the lower level, that lower strip of it, might somehow fall off, be removed, and it might be taken away, and then you're only left with the higher part. Now, sukkah, it's only an individual, it's a yochid. It's his responsibility. So we say that he might not become aware that the lower level has been fallen off or been removed, and not be aware that it's possible, and not rectify it. So therefore we say we're geyser that it's possible, it's not a kosher schach, because if you sit in that type of sukkah, and during the course of the time, some of that schach might fall off, and you won't be aware of it, and you won't realize it, and you'll be sitting a sukkah. But mavoi is the responsibility of the rabbim. It's not one single person. He has it in common with the other chatzeres with other batim and other chatzeres. So it's the responsibility of the rabbim. And the rabbim, mitkari adari, they remind each other, so we're not that concerned. Ravina Amari gives a different teretz. He says, Sukkah daraisa achmir barabanan. Sukkah, which is a din daraisa, the rabbanan were machmir. Mavi the rabbanan lo yachmir rabbanan. But Mavi, which is a rabbanan, we weren't so machmir, so we weren't machmir. We were geyser by the sukkah, but not by the Mavi. That's one mahalach. Another mahalach, the Gemara says, Ravada Ramasa Masalai Shmai said, Rabbi Ibcha, Itlad, it's just the opposite. Amar Rabba b'Mavi possible, by Mavi it's possible. B'sukkah, ksher by sukkah, it's kosher. Ma'ishna sukkah d'ksher. Why do we say that the sukkah is kosher? Damina and kolush, we say, view it like it's thinned out. So we view it like the entire schach is within the requisite height. The top part of it is like it's removed. So by Mavi, now we college say the same thing by Mavi and look at only the bottom part of the kaira and the top part, look at it like it's removed, and therefore the entire kaira is within the requisite height. More sense is he calls us well, if you do view it that way, it will perhaps be now a thin strip that's within the height, but it's thin. And it won't be caught, it'll be a possible kaira because the kaira has to have enough weight that the wind is not going to blow it away. And if you view it as a thin strip, then it's possible. It says by sukkah hanami also. Well, if you view it this way, then view it by the schach also, and say it's only a thin strip of schach, and it doesn't provide enough shade. It will be a sukkah where there's more sun than shade. Ella must say that we view it as a thin strip of very dense schach that provides enough shade. Here also, look at the kair that's a thin strip, but if it's metal rods, it's very heavy, and it's not going to be blown away in the wind. So in both cases, it should be kosher in one, it should be kosher in the other case. He said, really in both cases, mikra din, they should be kosher. Why do we say that sukkah, according to this version, why does he say sukkah is kosher? He says it's for just the opposite of what we said before. Sukkah, which is the responsibility of a yochid, of this private person, of the owner of the sukkah. Well, this person knows that the responsibility is his. It rests on him. So he'll take a chrayas for it. And therefore, he'll make sure to be aware, is the lower level of schach still intact, or is it fallen off and not there? And therefore, he'll be aware of it and mindful of it, and if he sees that it's not there, he'll fix it. So sukkah del yachir ramin nafshu mitkir. He'll take the responsibility and he'll remind himself of it. Movid el rabbinu, but the rabbim, it's not any one person's sole responsibility; it's in common. So therefore, movid el rabbinu samchei adar v'lo mitkri, the movid, which is the responsibility of all of them, then each one will rely on the other one, and no one will really take responsibility. And then we're afraid that the bottom part of the kaira will not be within the height, and therefore it'll be possible without realizing. The Amrenshi, there's an expression that people say, Kader the Beishutvi, a pot that belongs to two cooks, it's not hot or cold. I mean, each cook relies on the other one, so no one takes full responsibility. And therefore, we're concerned by the Mavoi that no one will take responsibility, and that's why we're geyser. Ravino Amar, he says, he says, different svara and just the opposite. He says, sukkah, which is deraisa, as opposed to what we said before, sukkah is deraisa, people will naturally be more careful, so therefore, we don't have to be geyser to be mechazik. People will be careful with it and be mindful of it. But Movi the Rabbanon, but Movi, which is in the Rabbanon, we're afraid that people won't be so mindful, won't take so much achrayas for it, therefore we're geyser.